Hello.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good. How are you? We finally meet.
Yes, finally. Sorry for canceling the previous, schedule. I just had something come up, so I couldn't attend it before. But I'm so excited to be here now.
Yes, it's absolutely not a problem. You know how many times I have to reschedule lately? It's just been insane, especially because it's
Yeah.
December and everything that's going on. So it's totally fine, totally fine, totally fine. So tell me about you. Tell me about your business. Tell me about everything.
Sure thing. So my name is Shashank Gaur, and I work as a vice president of innovation at Elmhurst Milk. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's a company. It's a very innovative company
Hmm.
based out of Elma, New York, here close to Buffalo. And the company makes plant-based milks. What's unique about our plant-based products is that we are very clean. We are, some of our milks we toot that we have two ingredient milks, so it's just nuts and water, nothing else, which is very innovative. Which we have a patented process through which we do that, and they're highly nutritional products. So at I have a PhD from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I did my degree in food science and human nutrition. And at Elmhurst, currently, I focus on research and development of new and innovative products. That's sort of my role, and I manage the R&D team here and help the brand take all these concepts, new products, ideas from a concept to commercialization, take it all the way, and generate new claims, create marketing content, come up with the ideas, sometimes work on the bench and create a formulation. And I love innovating. I love the plant-based field. I used to be in the dairy industry for a very long time, and
Hmm.
to me it wasn't as innovative as this category is or this market is. So I'm enjoying it. I'm having a blast.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm taking my executive MBA at Stanford, and I was partnered up with somebody who runs a dairy in California here. And he was telling me about all the restrictions in the dairy industry and how, you like pricing, there's pricing restrictions and business model restrictions and all these other things. And it just seems like there's so little innovation that can actually happen in that space. And the
Yeah.
only thing you could do is sort of like increase willingness to pay by fortifying the milk more. That's all you could really do. But in your space, I mean, you're not really producing milk per se, so you could actually do all sorts of interesting things. But I'm kind of going a little forward to. First of all, I want to talk about. You said you were near Buffalo. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, well,
Yes.
that's my nearby. I used to live in Toronto, so I would get the Buffalo stations, and I would be familiar with Buffalo. And every time we went down to the States, it would be like, let's go to Buffalo and grab some wings and
Yeah, that's
enjoy
awesome.
the
Yeah.
cold weather.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's getting there. It's starting now. So yeah,
Snow,
I mean,
snow.
it's a nice place, and I love Toronto too. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of
That's
snow there right now? Or you? Is it still clear? The streets are clear.
awesome. Sorry, say that again.
Are the streets still clear, or do you have
They're
snow?
still clear. We have some snow, here and there, but it's pretty clear, and the weather's not too bad right now. I think it's
Oh,
getting
that's
there
good.
though. Yeah.
That's good. Winter, right?
Yeah. Where are you located
Oh, I'm in
right
California now. I'm in San Jose, but I moved down here about 20 years ago, and I'm like, I'm never going back. Thank you very much.
now? I know, I
But
know. I
strangely
envy the
enough,
French there.
Toronto's north of you, but you guys still seem to get the brunt of the weather. I don't understand how that is, but
Oh, there's a whole science behind it. We have the lake effect, right? So it
right.
just dumps all the snow, right? In certain parts of Buffalo, not everywhere, but certain, especially where I work, it just pours snow there. And it's amazing, right? I go to work. I live in Buffalo downtown, and I go to work. It's clear, beautiful
Mhm.
here. And as soon as I get to my workplace, it's like snow, like 2 feet, 3 feet snow.
Oh,
It
geez.
Yeah, it's so different,
You
when you
must
drive.
enjoy working from home then, because the community is.
I wish. I have been deemed essential because I'm in the food
Oh,
industry, so I have to go to work every day, which is good and bad. I think it's good in terms of, I get to see people, I get to, do things. Honestly, you cannot innovate when you're sitting at home. Like, for our kind of jobs, we have to be in the
mhm.
lab, we have to be doing things. Bad in the sense that I couldn't watch all those Netflix series, that people have been watching.
Everybody else was sleeping. You had to be at the office.
I
Oh,
know. So I can't do that. I cannot do that. So yeah, I haven't gotten any sort of work from home or any vacations or anything because of COVID. That's one thing we never had. But it's fun. I still
yeah,
like it.
yeah. So I love. So so is Elmhurst? I mean, did you start? Did they recruit you? Like you were innovating elsewhere, or you were at Dairy? Like, how did the whole innovation practice start at Elmhurst? I mean, did they have one before? Did you create it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way Elmhurst started is Elmhurst used to be a dairy out of
Hmm.
based out of Queens, New York, and they were in the dairy business. They liked it, but eventually our owner decided to go plant based. He said enough of this dairy, let's go plant based. At the time, he was looking for a technology that could actually that's actually different from what existed out there. So he actually found Cheryl Mitchell, Dr. Cheryl Mitchell, who works at Elmhurst now, and she had at the time invented this technology where you can milk the grain, nuts, and seeds, and in a way that you don't need the gums, emulsifiers, thickeners, and other things to go along with it. And it allowed us to create clean label products. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, which is about 4 years, 5 years back, that was trendy, and it's still trendy to date. So she had this technology. Our owner, who's Henry Schwartz, he found her and he said, "Hey, move to Buffalo. I'm gonna buy your technology, and we're gonna make this milk together." So that's where we had this transition of going from dairy, completely dairy, to a non-dairy business. And he closed down the dairy factories and he moved into plant-based. And he moved the R&D, the production, everybody to Elma, New York, which is close by here. So that's sort of where it started, but that doesn't mean we stopped there. So when I was recruited, as I said, I come from the dairy industry, so I haven't, I've been doing innovation there, but not a lot. And then I was working for a hop company in midterm because I graduated, I did my PhD, and then I went and worked for a hop company based in Washington, Yakima, Washington, and that's where I created products with hops,
Mm-hmm.
hops that come out of beer. But I was
Yep.
working on creating products which were beyond brewing. So I was
Mm-hmm.
working on a product that could help the honeybees, for example.
Oh,
And
nice.
it could kill varroa mite, which is a very common problem in honeybees. It could kill that. Or I was looking at, hey, can we use a hop byproduct to on the plants to kill other mites like two-spotted spider mites and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So so the owner reached out to me and he said, well, listen, I saw your resume, and you look, your resume looks very good. You have the experience that I'm looking for, and here I'm trying to actually broaden my team while making sure that we're innovating fast. So that's one thing he liked about me, and innovating unique things which are patented, which are protected, so that we can continue to be unique. And that's the key, right? You have to continuously innovate to be successful in this industry. So that's where I came in to Elmhurst. We had about 8 products at the time. And the first task I was given was to create as many products as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so we launched about 40 products in a year,
Oh my
which
God,
is,
that's
which is
crazy.
a lot. Yes, we went crazy. And the strategy at the time was to, try different products because we have this technology. Let's use it the best we can and create everything possible out of it. Now you know that not everything sticks, right? So some
Mm-hmm.
of those products got killed, some of those products moved forward, um, and we have been continuously working on it. And now we're getting into different categories where we're getting into meat, we're getting into butters, we're getting into all kinds of things, made
Oh,
with plant-based
fantastic.
ingredients. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about your innovation life cycle. I mean, how do ideas start? How do they get worked on, and how do they end up as products? And like, tell me a little bit about that life cycle.
So that's one of the things I changed. It used to be very marketing heavy, so our marketing team would do sort of a research, or they would go to Expo West, or IFTs. They would go to these conferences and come up with ideas. I changed it a little bit. What I did was, I believe that innovation is not one department's job. It's everybody's job.
Hmm.
Everybody is involved in innovating stuff. So I created, these different kinds of forms for people to fill out, and any idea is a good idea. So I let people be super creative. And I send emails out to everybody in the company: sales, marketing, R&D. It doesn't matter what department you're in. And when the ideas come in, I pull them in, and then that's what I call as ideation. So I pull them in, we ideate, and then what we do is we take those ideas, and I go to the marketing team and I say, hey, can you do the research on these categories? So we can divide them into categories and say, go ahead and do some research. Meanwhile, my role is to create something what I call as rapid prototyping. So I
Hmm.
come back to the lab and I'm like, is it even possible? Like, this crazy idea, is it even possible to do with the ingredients that we have right now? So those two go hand in hand. So I do rapid prototyping, marketing does their own research, they look at the category and see if that's the right fit. And then we come together, and we go through a process called a stage gate process. I'm pretty sure you're aware of that.
Hmm.
And we have that first stage where we sit as a group, the senior management, and we decide if this is the project worth pursuing. Now, being an innovative company, a lot of ideas make it through the first stage.
Hmm.
I have been in companies where they don't, but here a lot make through the first stage. So we go to that second stage where we create a product, we do sensory studies, and we gather feedback on what this product looks like, how does it taste, how does it smell, and we collect all the data, and then we start sort of pre-selling the idea. So our salespeople go out there, they either have some sell sheets, or they have the product which was made in the pilot plant, and they start pre-selling it. They start
Hmm.
showing, hey, this is what's in our pipeline, are you interested? And then it gains some interest or gains some momentum. Come back, we create the products, we go through another stage gate 2, and then from there, it becomes a little easy. We're ordering packaging on the side, we're
Oh yeah.
designing the package, we're making sure we're ready to scale up in the plant, we're buying the ingredients. There are a lot of logistical things that we have to figure out. But once we get some sort of sales or some sort of momentum out in the market, we go with it.
Hmm.
Sometimes it just all it takes is one buyer, one big buyer, and we go forward with that project. Sometimes we don't even wait for the buyer. We just go forward
Hmm.
with the project, which we believe in, right? And then we create the product. So that's
Okay.
sort of the life cycle. It's very fast. It's sometimes just 2 months. In 2 months, we have a
Wow, that is
product.
amazing. Nobody,
It's
nobody can do
it's
that. Well, you could never do that before when you were in the dairy industry, but I'm saying moving into plant-based is sort of like broken you open. You can do all sorts of things. So it
oh,
sounds
you're
like you do a lot of experimenting. But do you do any kind of design thinking sessions where you actually bring customers in and like brainstorm with them, or does it usually do you usually generate the product for yourself and then go and do marketing?
Good point. It's both. So sometime, well, right now it's kind of difficult to bring customers in,
Oh,
due to the
sure.
policies. But in the past, we usually had people come to our facility. That way, they get a chance to see what we got. They can see what we're, brewing in the lab, right? We what kind of products we're coming out with, if there is any interest. Right now, the way it's working is that they actually send us, let's say, I don't know, let's say if Wegmans wants to bring a product like almond milk. So they
Mhm.
would send us a request through our sales team and say, hey, we're going to cut these almond milks, 10 different kinds. Can you send your samples in? And it could be something super unique, right? It could be, let's say, a seasonal SKU that we don't even have in our portfolio. When that request comes in, they give us a timeline, and that's one thing we're very good at, is being nimble, agile. So we would create a product very quickly and we would give it to them.
Mhm.
So, and then we work with their R&D group, we work here, and we fix and tweak the formulation so that they get what they're looking for. It's a win-win situation. We always like that, and that's one thing we offer is that we can create what you want. And so it's both ways, right? Sometimes we have to come up with ideas and do it. Sometimes it comes from the customer and they want what they want, and we can deliver to both.
Right. But it sounds like the ones that you can actually deliver quickly are just sort of augmentations of what you've already got. So you like maybe have a flavored product, or, is there anything like, so there's a certain set of things you can do within this like quick bubble, but then there's things that are just more disruptive and out there. How do you get to those more disruptive products?
So again, great point. So if we have, so the way it works is that we have a portfolio of ingredients. So we got almond milk, we got cashew milk, we got hazelnut milk, walnut milk, we can't all kinds of milk, like hemp milk. So that's our current portfolio.
Hmm.
Now, if you say, hey, I want a pumpkin spice almond milk, let's say, well, that's easy to create, right? That's a flavor work, and we can create it super quick within 2 weeks. That's sort of
Yep.
our timeline. If you come and say, I want a sour cream out of these ingredients, now it's a long timeline. It's not that we can't do it. We do have expertise in house. We all have different kinds of expertise, but that would require a longer timeline. So it's my job to provide that timeline. Hey, based on my rapid prototyping, and that's where the rapid prototyping comes in. Hey, can I whip up a quick sour cream using what we got?
Hmm.
And see, if we can package it and look at the logistics, look at the pricing, and then we give an answer. Hey, we believe it's doable. It's going to take this long. This is sort of how the nutritional panel would look like. This is how the ingredient deck would look like. Are you interested? And then if they are, then we get in a full gear and produce that product. um, and the other thing to mention here is that when a customer comes to us, it's not the first time we are hearing about that idea. We have probably explored it.
Yeah.
We just don't have the product because we're working on everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we have explored it in the past and if that didn't go anywhere, Elmhurst, for example, wasn't interested as a marketing team or sales team, then we put it in our back pocket. And if it comes up, and it has happened, it's a cycle. So it always comes back up. And then we're like, yep, we got something. Here you go, depending on what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like and you mentioned the word category before, which I found interesting because it sounds as if you have to sell in specific categories. Is that always the case, or can you sort of create some new category busting product that's not in any of these categories?
Yeah, it's a good question. We can, and we have. We have created a product, and it was launched. We call it as a smoothie base.
Hmm.
Okay, so you know about smoothies, right?
Yeah.
You know about milks, but what's a smoothie base,
Yeah.
right? So what we did was we created a smoothie base that is a base that contains your 10 grams of protein, that contains everything you need in there. It has kale, it has fruit, it has fruits,
It's
it
kale
has,
in there already?
yeah, it's
Wow.
everything's in there, right? And the idea was you can take this smoothie base and you can pour it in your blender and add whatever you want, and you're good to go. So you
Wow, I love the sound of
cut.
that. That's great.
I know. So you cut the 4 steps, right? You don't have to have the protein. You don't have to have fresh kale. You don't have to have a bunch of things, but you're still making something to your liking. So if you
Hmm.
like mangoes, you can throw in mangoes. If you like to put some yogurt, go right ahead. And we didn't even add any sugar. So it was, our almond hazelnut smoothie was keto friendly.
Hmm.
It was nutritional. It had all good fats, and it's good to go. Now that category does not exist. So where does it sit in a
Yeah.
supermarket? Where would
Yeah.
you put it, right? So you have to then create a separate section for it,
Hmm.
which could be right next to the produce section, for example. So when you're buying your fruits, vegetables, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll grab that, and then you buy according to that smoothie base. What
Yeah.
fruits would you like? Um, so that we have done, we have played in that sense. But easy ones are those which already have an established category and where we can go into. There are some disruptive companies that, for example, Oatly is a very good example. No one knew what oat milks was before they came in.
Yeah.
um, and they created that whole barista category where you're using a plant-based milk to create a latte, and
Mhm.
and it's foaming. People like it. Honestly, like no one knew if those consumers existed, right? Like
Yeah.
a latte was always with milk or soy milk, but oat milk wasn't there. So they pretty much disrupted that category. So there is room there, but it's a little risky in that sense. So we
Well, yeah, I
do.
always had problems with. So I don't drink regular milk anymore, but I drink almond milk, and it always annoyed me how you couldn't froth it. Like you were trying to froth it in your machine and you couldn't froth it. And then I forget who I was buying, but it's like they changed the formulation, and all of a sudden one day it's now frothable.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what they added to it or did, but it's like now it's frothable. I'm like, wow, this is great. This is
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. So, but it just came to me as a surprise. So it sounds like there's always things happening. But I mean, I want to go back a little bit to what you were talking about, where you have to sort of create a category. Does that sort of? I'm assuming that you're kind of stuck in the ecosystem then, right? Because if you don't have something that's ready to go into the slot, then either your retailers are gonna sort of balk and say, oh, you mean I've got to create a whole new thing for this thing? Why can't you just make another milk or something like that? Do you get that kind of pushback?
It depends on what retailer we're talking about. So there are some retailers who are super innovative. They want that. They
Yeah.
want to be unique and innovative, right? They want to have that section where people can go and look, that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
I like this retail store. They always have something new for me to try. And we have those. What it requires is education, right? So once the retailer gets it, then their marketing campaign could be directed towards that's, hey, this is super cool, this is super unique, no one else has it, or at least not right now. So then they can attract more consumers. So there are some of those, and then there are some traditional ones, right, which are like, hey, I don't have a door for this product. I don't even know how people are going to use it. I don't know if they're going to buy it. I don't have time to put resources in communicating the benefits of this product, or how to use this product. So it's both ways. Now, what I can tell you is that being in a startup style company, you have to take those risks. We
Mhm.
cannot go the traditional route. It's already crowded, right? You go for a protein shake, there are probably 12 plant-based protein shakes already out there.
Yeah.
So if you put another one there, it'll be difficult for you to, market your product. So you have to be innovative. You have to be creative. Um, we try, a lot of our products are within those sort of categories, but then we are also thinking beyond the box and trying to figure out what else can we do, what else can we come up with that would resonate with the consumers, and maybe retailers, but consumer wins every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you sell direct too?
We do, yeah,
Okay.
we do
So then
have a.
you can actually experiment with all sorts of crazy combinations, right? I mean, the other day I went to Trader Joe's and they had a maple coffee tea. So it was like it was like tea that had coffee and maple flavor in it. And I think, okay, I'm going like, this can't be good, but I'm open to anything. So I thought I'd try it. And I'm like, well, this is really good.
Yeah.
So like, but I thought like, who would come up with, is that the kind of stuff? I mean, do you have sort of like those totally out of the box combinations that, people might think they're strange, but they actually end up being good?
Uh, we do, and one of those I can talk about here is we came up with hemp creamer,
Mm.
and that was sort of my first project with Elmhurst. Nobody has a hemp creamer. Hemp is super new. People don't even understand what hemp is, right? There are
I don't
concerns,
understand what hemp is. I thought it was just like
right?
oat or something.
Like exactly. So does it have CBD? Does it have THC? Is it gonna get me high? So there are all those kind of questions.
I'm sure you'd
Having
sell a lot more of it if it could get you high.
Yeah, right. No, we get those questions to date. It's like, hey, there's some hemp in there, and I feel good after having your milk. I'm like, not really. I don't think that's the hemp.
Placebo effect.
Yeah, that's pretty much a placebo effect. But we ventured into that category, and we do have some products even now that contain hemp in there, or we have a hemp barista. We have a latte products with hemp in there, and again, that was something super unique we did. We took a risk with it. Hemp creamers, nobody has it to date. No one has it. There are some hemp milks out there, but nobody has a hemp creamer. It performs great. It, whitens your coffee. Just now we launched a pumpkin spice hemp creamer and it's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when the consumer goes to that aisle, the creamer aisle, and looks around and says, well, almond I've tried, this I've tried, this I've tried, hemp creamer, what is that?
Mhm.
They're, and we do have some cult following, if you may, and they always would try our new products. So it got both good and bad responses when we launched it, right? It's a polarizing product, but again, you got to take risks to be different, to be unique in the market. So we have done some of that, and we always are thinking out of the box. Our products are very different from what exists in the marketplace.
Yeah. So you're in a startup. So you're in a small company. So you have to move quickly and you have to be agile and nimble and stuff like that. And your senior management, your senior leadership totally understands that. But I'm assuming you've been in situations where they don't. Have you been able to uh, sort of still innovate in those kind of situations?
Yes, and it's daily. It happens every day. Because here's the thing, right? When our salesperson goes out there and pitches a concept or product, they don't like having 40 products on their portfolio. They can't even carry 40 products to show, right?
Right.
So, and then you don't get a shelf space for 40 products. Let's be real, right? You probably get like 8 slots or 9 slots in the retail store.
Yeah.
So there's always that pushback, right? Hey, maybe let's slow down. Let's just try to focus on what we got. Let us sell what we got, grow organically. But then, within the same company, we have other strategies where we're like, well, our current products are not, let's say, current 5 products are not doing that great. Maybe we need to come up with something new that would do great, that would do better than what the current products are doing. And it's a balance. It's a very fine balance between the two. And that's my job. That's what I deal with. I slow down sometimes, I push, brakes sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, hey, we gotta get this out. And again, it's a decision by the entire senior management team. So it's not like I decide, hey, we should go forward, or our marketing person decides, hey, we should move forward. It's a collective decision. We have to make the product has to make sense in the market, and we come to a common conclusion. So it's every day we have that argument, and we at the end of the day we all want our company to be successful. So it's just differences in strategies.
So, have you ever had a situation where you've come up with something completely new and different, and if you have, how was it received? Like, how do you move it into the market?
So when we come up with something super unique and different, we usually do a market research before we launch it. We're very good at that. So we have our consumers that we have the details. So we would do like a quick survey with them. We would showcase our product at places like Expo West, Expo East, to just gather that initial feedback. And it could be as little as a hey, taste off, and then we can
Mhm.
come back and we can fix those things. um People expect us to be different. That's one of the things that's unique about our brand. So people expect us to be different, us to be clean label. As I said, we have 2 ingredient products, so that's their expectation, that they don't add gums, thickeners, fillers that hurts my stomach. They don't add natural flavors. They don't add sugars. So they have a certain expectations, and as long as we meet those, they are okay with it. The issue happens when we can't meet those. Sometimes products need sugar, because people want the sugar, but they don't want it in the product. They want the taste, but they don't want it in the product. They don't want those calories in there
Yeah,
or the
it's like
sugar
how can you
content.
create? There's no way to create two ingredients plant-based sour cream, is there? Because you've got to have. There's got to be something to.
Exactly. And that's the pushback we get. But then, we explain it to them. Hey, listen, let's be reasonable here. This is what, and they are pretty vocal. They will talk
Mhm.
about that on our Facebook page, or they will talk about that on our Instagram. Hey, why did you add this natural flavor in there? Well, it's a pumpkin spice creamer. Where do you think the pumpkin spice flavor comes from?
Exactly.
Think,
It's got to come from somewhere.
yeah, not trying to be sassy, but it's just, um, just making them understand there are minimum ingredients that are needed to create the product that you like. We already have the 2 ingredient milks. If that's something that you like, go ahead with it. but we got to continue to innovate. We have barista products, for example, that have to foam. If they don't foam, you're not going to like it. I mean, just
Yep.
like what you said, right? So we have to create formulations that requires that foaming capabilities, requires that balance of fats and proteins that will allow that. So yeah, so it's communication, and we do a pretty good job on our social. We do a pretty good job in terms of our customer service, and we are a very science-based company. So and we talk science with our consumers. Sometimes to explain it to them.
I love it. So have you ever done any crowdsourced products where you just like go out there and say, "Hey, give us your ideas," and then sort of filter through them?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have done like a formal crowdsourcing of ideas. We do get some ideas through social media. We have received ideas on the floor, like expo floors, when people stop by and say, "Hey, why don't you have this? I love this flavor. Why don't you create something like that?" Um, I know that sometimes when we have a concept, our team goes out there and shares the concept with them, but very little information. Hey, we are gonna come up with a protein shake. What would you like?
Hmm.
And then they get the feedback, and then they come back and share it with us. We don't do a lot of crowdsourcing of ideas because it's difficult and it gets very messy very quickly, because it can get too crazy at times.
Yeah.
So it's just just talking to our consumers. They actually are very good at telling us what they want, and then we go from there. We collect those ideas, and it goes back into my ideation pool.
Yeah.
That's sort of where everything starts.
Nice. But when it
Yeah.
comes to new product concepts, you say you shop them to expos and stuff like that. Aren't you concerned that someone's going to steal your IP?
Yeah, that's a very good point. There are certain things that we do not share with the world until we file patents on those.
Hmm.
Uh, and those are mostly on the ingredient side. So, for example, if I created an ingredient that's, let's say, a protein ingredient that's very soluble in water, it doesn't require any gums or thickeners, it's very creamy, it's very nice. And let's say it comes from, I don't know, chickpea, for example.
Hmm.
Now that's unique, and that's what would separate us from the market, because everybody else is using whatever chickpeas and they have the grittiness problem, they have a mouthfeel problem. That we
Yeah.
won't show to people. That we would file an IP on first. And then once we at least we file an IP, then we can start discussing it out there so that we are protected.
Hmm.
If it's just a category extension, um, we show it to the world because it's eventually going to come out anyways. Sometimes we try not to give too much information. It's just like a teaser out there. Hey, this is coming. Um, but it depends on what technology you're talking about. It depends on what product you're talking about. So yeah, it's a good balance.
Cool. Well, I'm curious to know if there's anything that you've done that's bombed totally. Like, is there anything?
I would say that see, so I don't want to call it as bombed. We used to have a protein shake,
Yeah.
okay, and this protein shake, this was peanut protein shake, the
Mm,
cleanest protein shake in the world, it still is, and it had peanuts, it had water, sugar, and natural flavors. That's about
mhm,
it.
mhm.
All the 20-gram protein came from peanuts. And if you look at the protein category right now, almost all products have between 12 to 25 ingredients. So coming up with a 4 ingredient product was amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, and it did get some traction. It's partly our fault because we didn't have the product out there for a long time, but it's also peanuts was one of those things that consumers said, well, either there was an allergen concern or peanuts are cheap, so they don't really call for premium. Our products are
Yeah.
very premium. So, and then it had a raw peanut taste because it was just peanuts and water and some
Hmm.
natural flavors, right? Uh, so we launched it and it got out of the market in 6 months. We
Yeah.
had to pull it back. And the another big concern we had was with the production. So it was an
Mhm.
allergen concern. We obviously make a lot of product in the plant. So every time you run peanuts, you have to clean up the lines a lot. And then, you have to go through a full turn of CIP cycle, and it was a mess. So
Yeah.
we decided it just didn't make any business sense to continue with that product. It's still there, and someday I believe it will come back, because it is a super clean product.
Yeah.
um, so that I would say, wasn't very successful. We didn't make a lot of money on it. um, and then hemp did okay. It's still doing good. So yeah, I don't know. And here in my career, I haven't seen something bomb.
Mhm.
We may have decided to not continue with the product just because it didn't make business sense. We
Right.
weren't generating enough profits out of it.
Well, I think just doing anything peanut nowadays is pretty innovative because everybody's just so anti peanut now. It's like
Yeah.
as soon as you said peanut, I thought peanut. Like
y-
culturally, everyone has such a aversion to them now,
Yep.
that it's like, I kind of like peanuts. I like almonds better, but I kind of like peanuts, and I just feel bad for the peanut because I grew up with peanut butter, and I kind of like peanut butter when I was a kid. But nowadays, it seems like whenever you hear the word peanut, everyone's ears perk up and they go, "Oh my god, allergies, allergies, allergies!" Right? So
Yeah.
it's actually pretty innovative that you went down that path. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to date, we get a lot of emails asking us to bring those peanut products, because one of the places it was very helpful was desensitization programs. So
Mm,
when you're a child, you have to eat peanuts so that you don't develop that allergy over time. If you
exactly.
have that allergy, you have to be desensitized, and there are programs where you give a known amount of peanut. It could start with like a little bit of powder, and it could go all the way to a full peanut, right?
Hmm.
And our products were perfect because eating a peanut is challenging for a child, especially. But
Right.
drinking a peanut milk is a little easier, and you can portion it right to
Hmm.
desensitize. So I think there was a good place there where we could have placed this product. And as I said, it was so clean that even doctors would recommend it, because they were like, instead of drinking all those gums thickeners, emulsifiers, go with this product. And then they would portion it out and give it to people.
Yeah, if
um,
you think about it, it actually fits almost in between a treatment. It could almost be a part of a treatment regimen, right? If it was packaged properly, it could be a medical product.
correct. And it was proposed within our group, and we are still thinking about it. So someday we might bring it back in a different packaging with a different message, market it differently. And it could sit at a different storefront. It could be in the medical aisle, but we need to do more research. We need to, when we make those kind of claims, and that's my job too, to make sure that whatever claim we're making is an accurate claim,
Mhm.
because you cannot make wrong claims. So I work with our legal team and make sure that we're making the proper claims and right claims.
Right.
Yep.
So how far can you go? You say you've done liquids. You're doing like creams and butters. Can you actually go all the way to making like meat? Or are you just like in
Funny
that
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 you ask. Yeah, funny that you ask. We have been working on it. We are trying to create a clean meat product.
Mhm.
So if you look at the current market, especially in the plant-based meat category, you look at their ingredient deck, or you look at their nutritional panel, they are loaded with ingredients. There are
Oh yeah.
probably
Yeah.
20 ingredients on there. And I know most of them have a function in there. It's not just that they threw it in there. So there is a function in there. What we are trying to do is, can we achieve the same function from the ingredient that we're using? So can I use, cashew and almond mix to create that uniqueness? How
Mhm.
can I get that sort of fibers in there, or how can I get that chew that I'm looking for, using natural ingredients and not the junk ingredients? So we've
Yeah.
been working on that. It will take a long time, but we'll get there someday, because I think that's the future. I think people will eventually, and they're realizing now, they will realize more that you have to eat clean. That's the most
Mhm.
important part, eat clean, because one other thing you get out of eating clean is you get more nutrition per serving. So instead of eating 10 grams, where only 2 grams is the nuts and 8 grams is the junk, you actually got nutrition only from that 2 grams, and everything
Yeah.
else was just, not useful.
Yeah.
Whereas when we create a product, we make sure that 10 grams that go in your body does something to your body and helps your body.
Yeah, that's
So
fantastic. I know I've tried the sort of Beyond Meat and those other substitutes, and when you look at the ingredient list, it's like there's actually wood fiber in here. Like, if
yeah,
you like, I'm actually
yeah,
eating wood fiber, and that's what gives you that, especially in the ground product. You know, that
yep,
sort of like pull, like
yep.
when you're biting into a burger, and I'm like, ah, I can't imagine because we're eating meat, we're eating wood fibers, but I mean, it sounds like, and it's true because I mean, there's this Indian place near here that does astounding things with cashew. It's amazing what they can do with cashew, and in the whole nut family, it's just so versatile, and you can do so many things with it that I can totally see you making like some kind of a nut meat that is like so close to ground beef that you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's a challenge that we took, and we're working on it diligently. We're close on some products. We're a little too far on others, but we'll get there. I think I believe in it. And again, it's not just the nuts that we currently have, right? We always explore the other ingredients that are out there. How about
Mhm.
other grains? How about other seeds? They all, again, everything is made out of protein, fats, minerals,
Yeah.
vitamins, right, and carbohydrates. Every
Mhm.
single food ingredient, um, and those ingredients provide you the functionality that meat has or that milk has. So why not extract it from the grains, from the nuts, and from the seeds, rather than going the gums and stabilizers route, which are very purified forms of
Yeah.
products.
Well, I have a question for you then. I always thought the GMO. Everyone goes GMO is horrible, but it also depends on how you do it, right? I mean, when it comes to GMO, you can genetically create clean stuff. No, I mean, is that also a possibility? Or
Yes. So I'm not a breeder, but I know a little bit about it. So there is something called as conventional breeding, and then there is the the sort of new industrialized breeding. We have been doing conventional breeding for a very long time. I
Mhm.
mean, corn used to look very different back in the day. It had black, brown, yellow kind of seeds, and now it's all yellow. There are other, potato didn't look like how it looks like today. So and hops, I mean, I come from a hop industry, so we create different hops every year, different
Mhm.
flavored hops. So sometimes you get a pineapple flavor out of it, sometimes you get out of the beers, sometimes you get more like a grape flavor, or coconut flavor. So we're not using genetical, we're not calling them a GMO product, because what we do is a conventional breeding. We
Yeah.
take a breed, let's say, which has coconut flavor compounds in there, and then let's say we take a breed which has orange flavored compounds in there, and we cross them, and then we create a product. It's not happening in the lab, it's happening out in the nature. We
Mhm.
just control how it's happening.
Yeah.
Versus with genetic modification, you are tweaking the DNA, um, in a way that benefits you. And I think that's what people are against. It's like you're creating something artificial. It's not natural. It's not happening naturally. And that's where the debate is. So yeah, it is possible to create different varieties by doing conventional breeding.
Well, it's kind of like, well, you are kind of tweaking the DNA, but you just, because you're throwing the combinations together and you're letting nature sort of tweak the DNA. It's like, how much further is it to just go in there and say, oh, I'd like this to be a little more pineapple-y. Can I just flip this switch and, and do that? Is that so bad? I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah. So with natural selection, and that's why it's so challenging. And that's why, when you come up with the breed using conventional breeding, you're 10 years out. Every single moment, you're 10 years out, because you're doing these crosses and crossing your fingers that it will do what you believe, what you think it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Versus, the non-GMO, or sorry, the GMO route, there, you kind of know what's going to happen. You're tweaking that gene to make that. um, I think the bigger debate is about the health, right? We don't know enough about what GMOs could do to your body. We just
Right.
don't have enough data.
Yeah.
It's fairly a new concept, even
Hmm.
though we have been using it for a long time in this country, still a new concept. And we're still not able to correlate the diseases with GMOs. There's no research where it says, well, if you eat GMO products, you're going to have cancer down the line. We don't know
Yeah.
that. And that may not be true, but we just don't know. Conventional breeding, on the other hand, has been done for thousands of years. So we know, our ancestors did it.
Yeah.
Nature did it, for that
Yeah.
sake, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where the biggest debate is. It's like, don't tweak the nature, let it be the way it is. And then, we are okay eating what's out there.
Yeah, well, I want that Star Trek future where you can do, replicate your food, and if you replicate your food, all of that stuff is probably GMO, right? Because it's actually, created on the fly out of molecules. So, I mean, we're going to get to
Absolutely.
that point eventually. So, GMO seems like a step along there, but if you're right, I mean, we're bypassing these natural functions, and we don't know what those natural functions are doing to sort of maintain it within that realm of things that aren't going to kill us, right?
Correct, correct, correct. Now, I'm not against GMOs, so I don't have an opinion. These are the facts, right?
Right.
And I am okay on both ends. The way we create our products, we are non-GMO. That's one thing we're very clear about. But there are some very cool research happening out there now. People are creating milks that are, even though they're GMOs, they taste like milk, they function like milk, but they don't have any milk in them.
Hmm.
All that protein, all that fat is created using yeasts, and by tweaking the DNAs to produce, let's say, casein, and or to produce any of the milk ingredient, which is very cool in my opinion. Um, it's a balance, right? So we're gonna have 9 billion people in 2025 or something, or
Hmm.
2050. We have to feed the population, and one way of doing it is that that's how
Yeah.
green revolution happened, when we were able to figure out through that tweaking of DNA how we can save our crops. Otherwise they
Hmm.
would have been wiped out.
Yeah.
So this is important, the modification is important. It just has to be controlled, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say would be like some good practices that you use in innovating new products that you think that would be applicable to other companies?
um, One of the most important practice, I believe, when you innovate a new product is that be ready to take risks.
Mm.
It's hard. It's very hard, and especially for the young generation. I give a lot of seminars, to the universities and to colleges, and that's one thing I say: just jump, just do it. And that's do just create a product, or come up with creative ideas that are crazy. It's fine,
Mhm.
and then just go for it. It's all about risk taking. Innovation, in my view, is risk taking, but it has to be a calculated risk. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to build a rocket. No,
Mhm.
you have to have some calculations. You have to know what you're doing, but go for it. I think that's one thing I felt with the dairy industry. They were very conservative. They were very, hey, if it's selling, why bother changing it?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm okay with selling milk. I'm okay with selling fats. I'm okay with selling this. Why bother changing? And I think that was sort of why dairy industry went down,
Hmm.
because they couldn't keep up with the innovation. Whereas in plant-based industry, people just went all out,
Yeah.
and they just tried to create everything. I mean, there's butters, there's meats, and God knows what's going to be next. There are ice creams. um, so that strategy in any business is super important. The other thing I would say is follow a process. I've seen a lot, especially with the startups right now. They usually don't have a process around it, and it becomes very chaotic very quickly,
Hmm.
because innovating, especially in the food industry or any industry for that sake, it requires certain steps. You can't skip them, which means legal, regulatory, ordering things on time, getting the ingredients, making sure they don't go bad, applying for any of the regulatory FDA approvals and so on. People ignore that sometimes. So have a plan, have a process, and go through that process. It will happen. If you don't follow that process, you screw up something. Once you're done with that 200, $300,000 worth of run, And if you realize you screwed up something, you lost everything. More
Hmm.
importantly, you lost the time. So do your homework and then go through the process. Create a process and go through it. Um, and I've seen a lot people just skip, blow through the process because, oh, we need this product out there tomorrow. I don't care how
Yep.
you get it. Create a process. It could be fast. It could be a 2 week process, but it
Hmm.
has to be a process. I think those are
Yep.
the two on top of my mind, risk and process that I personally believe in. And that's how sort of how I lead, and that keeps the creative juices flowing.
So it sounds like you also do a lot of experimentation. I think that's
Yes.
the people are afraid of is experimenting.
Correct, correct. You
Yeah.
have to. If you want to be different, if you have want to be unique, you have to experiment and you have to challenge what exists right now. A lot of people take an offense to that. It's like, no, we know we have 40 years of experience and we know this is gonna work this way. Well, you can be like, but maybe how about we did it this way,
Yeah.
and challenge, and something good comes out of it.
But you have to, I think you have to experiment because a lot of times if you don't, and some companies they're afraid to experiment because they think, well, that's going to cost X or that's going to cost X or that's going to cost X. And it's like, if it doesn't work out, we've blown all that money. But unless you experiment, you don't know what else you can discover. Right.
Correct. Correct. And that's what I call as organic growth. So companies would grow with if they have four SKUs that are doing good, they're making enough money, they will continue to grow. But that's an organic growth. If you're in the startup business, you have to grow faster than that, because and you have to go almost viral, right? Not every company has that, or it doesn't happen to every company. But if that's your goal, if you want to multiply, you have to experiment, you have to take those risks,
Yeah.
or if you chose to have an organic growth, good for you, and
Yeah.
then you continue with what you got, maybe innovate, let's say one product a year, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I've seen both worlds.
Well, I want to hear more about before we talk about what's next. Is like I want to hear more about this butter. Have you actually created like a low ingredient butter that's clean? How did that? How'd you do that?
Yeah, so
Is it out
yes.
yet?
Yeah, we have played in this realm. I wouldn't say we have something that we can commercialize tomorrow. I
Okay.
know there are products out in the market that have butters, plant-based butters, and now that we can also call them butters. So yes, so the way it works is that what you do is these some of the nuts have very high fat content.
Hmm.
Those could be cashew, could be almonds. A lot of people add fats, where that's where the ingredient list comes from. So you can have an ingredient where you say, well, it contains almonds, it contains oats, and then it contains fats from coconut, it contains canola oil. They can add oils and fats on top of it, that we are different, so we want to get the fat actually from the nut.
Hmm.
um, so you take the fat, you do a cream separation, you take the fat, and then you churn it just the way you would churn a dairy, right? Just the way you churn milk, and it's a fine tuning between the saturated fat and unsaturated fat, so that it's solid in your fridge, but it also melts when it gets on your toast, on your toast, right? It melts and you can actually spread it. It shouldn't be solid on your toast. So there's a fine tweaking in between saturated and unsaturated fats, um, and then obviously color, flavor, taste. That's the easy part. So
Yeah.
getting that formulation right is very important. So we have played in this category, because we are such a diverse portfolio. It opens a lot of doors for us. We
Hmm.
got hazelnut, oats, walnuts, cashew, almonds. So
Nice.
it allows us to play in that area. We haven't pursued it actively because one of the reasons is that we are a beverage plant. We do low
Mm.
acid aseptic beverages. So in order for us to pursue that further, we would have to establish a butter plant,
Right.
obviously,
You have
and
to
different
refill butter.
packaging. So it's an investment, right? It's it's
Hmm.
it's a huge investment. So those are the conversations we have with our business team and figure out, hey, is this the right investment? Probably
Yeah.
$15 million. Is it the right investment right now? So some of those we keep in our back pocket and say, well, someday we will, not right now.
Once you have that, let me know because I want to buy your butters.
Will do. Will do.
About the future, where do you see things in 10 years, like 2030, 2031? What's your industry going to be like? What's food going to be like? What's the world going to be like? I want to hear your thoughts.
God, I wish I knew. So I, this is what I think. I think people are gonna continue to become more and more aware of sustainability concerns, right?
Hmm.
They, I think that's the biggest change that's happening today, and it'll continue to happen. People understand that that there is a problem out there. We have to be more sustainable, so that'll continue to go on. People will continue to focus on health. We almost, as a food scientist, and I'm not that old, but I have seen the history. We went from being super clean label, especially in the USA, where we were just drinking milk.
Hmm.
We were eating and drinking simple things, right? Back in the day. Then science happened. We went super complex. Oh, I want this product, that product, and people did not care about how long your ingredient deck length was.
Yeah.
Then we're sort of going back to the root now. I come from India, and we believe in simple ingredients too over there.
Mm-hmm.
To a point, we buy our groceries every day, not every week or every month, right? We buy it every day. It's fresh. You cook
Yeah.
every day. You cook
Don't
three
go to
times a
Costco
day,
and buy those giant boxes of
right?
milk.
So I have a feeling that we're going back to that, where people are going to continue to go simpler, simpler, simpler. Now, convenience is a big part of our life right now, and people need convenience. So we don't have time to make three meals in a day. So convenience is gonna continue to be a major player out there. Sustainability, I think, will continue to be there, and clean products is gonna continue to move forward. It, right now, we have pretty much saturated what we can do with the plant-based ingredients. Um, I see I see more functional ingredients coming from the Asian, countries, which is already happening. So now you have matcha, you have ashwagandha, you have turmeric, golden milks. It will continue to happen. We'll continue to get more and more sort of medicinal products from, because
Yeah.
apparently we here love it more than they do,
Well,
right? So
but the global flavors are brand new, right? So this is
I
something that
know.
it's a new thing for everybody here. So that's great.
Correct. So that
And
will continue to happen. It's just right now we're in the process of establishing supply chains. So there may be a cool functional ingredient that somebody in China, some village in China, has been using it for years, for centuries, but we just can't get it here because there isn't a good supply chain.
right.
The day when we get that, then that will become hot in the US, and it's a trend, right? It comes and goes. Same thing happened with hemp. So you'll see more of these unique, creative ingredients come from all over the world. There are now pili nuts that people are into right now. There are
Mhm.
beru nuts. So again, these weird things will weird or interesting things
Well, they're
will
weird for us, but they're not weird for a lot of other people. So
Exactly,
tons,
exactly.
tons-
And as we learn more and more, so because of this new interest, now the researchers are putting more time into identifying what are the benefits of these things.
yeah,
How can we incorporate it into the products that Americans are used to? So, can we include pili nut in a cafe latte that Americans love,
yeah,
right? So that will continue to happen. Can we put it in creamers that we use here versus, in India, we don't use creamers, we use
yeah,
actual milk.
yeah,
So those things will continue to happen. Um, and then, it will totally depend on how our consumers evolve over
yeah,
time. And
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. I wish I knew, honestly. I don't, and it changes so quickly.
Oh
The
yeah.
market shifts.
What's so
It's
exciting
completely,
about it, right? So this
yeah.
is fantastic. Thank you so much. How do people get in touch with you? Do you have a website, or what's the best way if they wanted to?
Sure. So our website is elmhurst1925.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can reach us via the contact us page on the website. So it will come to me if it's if you can say attention Shashank, if you directly want to talk to me, it'll come to me. Or if it's a general question about our product, or if there is anything else you want to learn about our company and our products, that's the best way to get to us.
Sounds fantastic. Well, I'm heading there right now and to buy some milk. All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you so much. Great
Yeah,
conversation. Talk to you later.
thanks for having me. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.